What's the dumbest thing your teacher has ever done? Our chemistry teacher, Mrs. Chen, was convinced she was the smartest person alive. She'd constantly remind us how she had a PhD and we were just high school nobodies who wouldn't understand real science. This woman made every class about her credentials. She had certificates covering an entire wall and would point to them whenever someone questioned her methods. See these degrees, this is why I'm teaching and you're learning. She refused to let anyone challenge her authority. When my lab partner Sarah asked why we mixed chemicals in a specific order, Mrs. Chen snapped, I have a doctorate. You follow instructions. Questions waste everyone's time. The worst part was how she treated students who struggled. My friend Marcus was dyslexic and had trouble reading chemical formulas quickly. Instead of helping, she'd say, maybe advanced sciences aren't for everyone. Community college might be more your speed. She made kids feel stupid for basic safety concerns too. When Jennifer asked about wearing goggles during acid experiments, Mrs. Chen rolled her eyes. I've been doing this longer than you've been alive. Trust the expert. But Mrs. Chen had this weird obsession with showing off during demonstrations. She'd always volunteer to present experiments to other classes or visiting parents. Watch a real scientist work, she'd announce. The breaking point came during our unit on chemical reactions. Mrs. Chen was demonstrating sodium and water reactions for a group of visiting 8th graders who might take her class next year. She spent 10 minutes bragging about her advanced knowledge while setting everything up. This is basic chemistry that requires years of graduate study to truly comprehend, she said, holding up a chunk of sodium. But something felt off. My dad's a firefighter and he'd warned me about certain chemical combinations at home. Yeah. The sodium piece looked way bigger than what we'd used in textbook examples. I raised my hand nervously. Mrs. Chen, shouldn't we be wearing safety gear for this reaction? She laughed condescendingly. I've performed this demonstration hundreds of times. Safety protocols are for beginners who don't understand the science. The 8th graders were watching wide-eyed as she prepared everything. She was loving the attention, explaining each step like she was some famous scientist. Now observe how a trained professional handles reactive metals, she announced dramatically. She dropped the sodium into a large glass beaker filled with water. The reaction was immediately way more violent than expected. Instead of the gentle fizzing we'd seen in videos, this created an explosive bubbling. The beaker started cracking from the heat. Water and sodium hydroxide began spraying everywhere. Kids were screaming and running toward the door. Mrs. Chen panicked completely. Instead of following proper emergency procedures, she tried to grab the beaker with her bare hands to move it away from students. The chemical reaction burned her fingers instantly. She started crying and shaking her hands while the beaker continued bubbling over onto the lab table. The fire alarm went off automatically from all the steam and smoke. My dad's crew showed up within minutes and found Mrs. Chen hiding in the supply closet while 30 kids had evacuated themselves. The fire chief was furious when he assessed the situation. Mrs. Chen had used about 5 times too much sodium and hadn't calculated the proper water concentration. Her expert demonstration could have seriously injured someone. The principal arrived and found chemical burns on the lab table, broken glass everywhere, and one teacher who couldn't explain what went wrong. She got suspended immediately pending investigation. Our substitute teacher was actually a retired college chemistry professor who taught us more real science in 2 weeks than Mrs. Chen had managed all semester. He showed us proper safety protocols, explained why measurements matter, and actually answered our questions instead of dismissing them. The best part was when he reviewed Mrs. Chen's lesson plans. He found multiple experiments that violated basic safety standards. I'm not sure where she got her training, he told us, but this isn't how real chemists work. Mrs. Chen never came back. Last I heard, she was working at an insurance company. Now, whenever someone in our friend group acts like they know everything, we just say, don't pull a Mrs. Chen. The 8th graders who witnessed everything still talk about it. They call it the day the chemistry teacher almost blew up the school. None of them signed up for chemistry the following year. Years